Welcome to Conspiracy Deconstructed. This is where we take those really sensational claims, you know the ones, grab all the evidence you send our way, and really put it under the microscope.
And today, we're looking at a story that's almost like a perfect storm of, well, misinformation woven together over time. It's this decades-old legend.
Right, this idea that Earth is being watched, silently monitored.
Get this, a 13,000-year-old alien probe. That's the core claim.
Exactly. We are digging into the Black Knight satellite. And look, the claim isn't vague, it's specific. This thing, the supposed piece of ancient tech,
way beyond us,
is supposedly in this near-polar orbit. And the proof, well, proponents point to strange radio signals going back more than a century.
And it all supposedly culminates in this one really famous photograph taken by NASA astronauts back in 1998.
Okay, so that photo is key. But the whole theory, as you often find, seems to stand on, well, let's say shaky ground. 3 pillars, really.
Completely separate pillars, actually. That's crucial. First, you've got these ancient sound-based origins, weird radio signals people link back to Nikola Tesla, and this phenomenon called long-delayed echoes, LDEs.
Okay, so signals first. Then
comes the Cold War era. Confusion reigns. People reporting sightings of mysterious, unidentified satellites.
Before anyone, Soviets included, officially launched anything.
That's the claim. This feeds the unknown object part of the story.
And the third pillar, the modern anchor.
That 1998 photo, the visual proof from the Space Shuttle mission. That's what really cemented the myth in the internet age.
Gotcha. So our job today, here on Conspiracy Deconstructed, is to really break down the source material you've given us.
We want to show you how this isn't one single connected mystery. It's more like, well, critics call it a jumble of completely unrelated stories.
Yeah, stitched together over years.
Exactly.
All
Into
right.
this. Well, inconsistent dollop of myth is one description I've seen. And we'll be using official NASA documents, especially the technical reports from that shuttle mission, to try and find the objective truth behind that photo.
It feels important to say up front, this Black Knight thing really is a classic case of connecting dots that aren't actually connected. A non sequitur.
Right. It takes real historical facts, maybe some scientific puzzles that were later figured out, adds in some Cold War military mix-ups.
And spins it all into this grand, unverifiable story.
Precisely. So let's start by pulling apart the threads. Where did these individual pieces come from? We need to go way back, long before we even put the first satellite up there.
Okay, pre-space age.
Absolutely. The very first fragment connects back to 1899, right at the dawn of radio.
And it involves a big name.
Nikola Tesla, the visionary engineer. He was working out in Colorado Springs at his experimental station.
And he reported hearing something unusual.
Yes. Powerful, rhythmic, weird radio signals, as he put it. He felt strongly they came from an intelligent source, somewhere outside Earth.
Famously, he suggested Mars, right?
He did. And because it was Tesla, arguably the leading mind in radio tech then, people took it seriously. They thought, if anyone can tell noise from a real signal, it's him.
But the context is everything here. Radio was brand new.
Exactly. Scientists today look back and think, well, it was most likely natural radio waves, things coming from space we didn't understand then, or maybe just interference from his own gear.
Or, and this is a fascinating bit of historical irony.
Pulsars.
Right. These highly magnetized spinning neutron stars that send out beams of radiation like a lighthouse.
They create precisely that kind of rhythmic signal, but pulsars weren't discovered until 1967.
So Tesla hears something, possibly a pulsar, a natural phenomenon.
But he has absolutely no category for it in 1899. The only explanation that fit, given his framework, was intelligence, an artificial signal.
Okay, so piece number 1. An unexplained signal, misinterpreted by a genius working with the limits of his time. What's the next piece?
We jump forward almost 30 years to 1927. This involves another genuinely strange radio thing, long-delayed echoes, LDEs.
LDEs. Tell me about those.
Okay, so this Norwegian amateur radio guy, Jürgen Hals, he's sending out shortwave radio pulses. Standard stuff. But then, seconds later, sometimes even minutes later, he hears the same signal again, an echo, but the delay is way too long.
That is weird. Radio waves move at light speed, bounce off the moon, it's back in like 2.5 seconds.
Right.
So how do you get a delay of several minutes? Where did the signal go?
That was the puzzle. Conventional physics struggled. It seemed like the signal had to travel an impossible distance or maybe get stored somehow and retransmitted.
So it's a real anomaly.
A genuine scientific head-scratcher at the time. And that ambiguity, that lack of easy explanation, made it perfect fuel for later theories about, say, a mysterious object out there intercepting and rebroadcasting signals.
Okay, so we have these two auditory mysteries. Tesla's signals, the LDEs. How do we get to a physical satellite?
That happens during the Cold War. The paranoia, the space race heating up. This is where the black and the satellite parts get glued onto the story.
When does this start?
The first real step towards synthesizing this into a mystery object story comes in 1954. That's 3 years before Sputnik 1.
Okay, pre-Sputnik. Who's enrolled?
A guy named Donald Kehoe. He was a retired Marine major, but more famously, a very active promoter of UFO books and ideas.
Ah, the UFO connection.
Right. Kehoe starts publishing claims, capitalizing on the public's anxiety about the unknown. He says the U.S. Air Force has detected 2 unidentified satellites already orbiting Earth.
Suggesting they're alien.
That was the implication.
Yeah.
And conveniently, this was happening right when he was pushing a new UFO book.
Timing is everything, but it plants the seed, right? This idea that something's up there before us.
Exactly. Unauthorized, unknown.
Yeah.
Then things get really confusing in February 1960.
What happened then?
Time magazine runs a story. They report the U.S. Navy has detected a dark object.
Dark object.
Yeah, in a strange near-polar orbit, which is not typical for natural objects or early planned orbits.
So immediate speculation.
Instantly. Rumors fly. Is it a Soviet spy satellite? Something much heavier, more advanced than we thought they had?
Yeah.
Military anxieties spike.
But that's the headline. What was the reality? Was there a follow-up?
There was. And this is crucial. Time later published a clarification. That dark object, it wasn't some super Soviet spy craft.
So what was it?
It was debris, just space junk. Specifically, parts of the casing and heat shield from a U.S. Air Force spy satellite called Discoverer 8.
Discoverer 8, an American satellite.
Yes. It had been launched a few months earlier, gone off course, and broken up. What the Navy detected was just leftover pieces tumbling in orbit.
Okay, that makes sense. Early tracking wasn't great, right? Easy to misidentify a dark, tumbling piece of junk against space.
Especially when everyone was on edge, half expecting the Soviets to pull a technological rabbit out of a hat. Misidentification was almost inevitable.
No, what about the name Black Knight? Where does that actually come from? It wasn't originally tied to this debris, was it?
Not at all. This adds another layer of confusion. The name Black Knight actually comes from a real British rocketry program.
A British rocket called Black Knight, seriously?
Yes, operational from 1958 to 1965. But here's the key difference people miss.
What's that?
The British Black Knight rocket was designed to test re-entry vehicles for their Blue Streak missile program. It flew up, tested the re-entry tech, and came back down.
So it wasn't orbital?
Never achieved orbit. It was a suborbital test rocket.
Yeah.
So back in the 60s, if you heard whispers about a mysterious Black Knight in aerospace circles, it probably referred to this British test program.
But that name got completely detached from the rocket program.
And somehow got fused with the Tesla signals, the LDEs, the American satellite debris confusion. It's a linguistic accident almost.
Wow, okay, so we've got these completely separate ingredients. Tesla's maybe pulsar signals, the weird LDEs, a UFO promoter's claims, misidentified U.S. satellite debris, and a British suborbital rocket name. None originally connected to a 13,000-year-old alien probe.
Exactly. Now let's look at how proponents of the theory weave these threads together. Let's present their case, the evidence they point to, charitably.
Okay. What's the first major piece of evidence they use to build the actual Black Knight narrative? Especially that incredible age claim.
That comes back to the long-delayed echoes, the LDEs from the 1920s. But it hinges on the work of a specific person in the 1970s.
Who is that?
A Scottish author and researcher named Duncan Lunan. His work, though later discredited, is absolutely central to the myth.
So what did Lunan claim he found in that LDE data?
Proponents point to his analysis. Lunan took the original delay times recorded by Halls and others back in the 20s and 30s. He claimed if you plotted the length of the delay against the sequence number of the echo, patterns emerged. And he believed these patterns weren't random. He claimed they formed star maps.
Star maps? Pointing where?
His conclusion was astonishing. He claimed the map pointed to the star system Epsilon Boötis, which is also known as Izar.
Izar. And based on this map?
Based on this map and some calculations about travel time in the star system's history, Lunan hypothesized the signals came from an alien probe.
And the age? Where does 13,000 years come from?
That was Lunan's calculation. He figured the probe must have been parked, basically lurking near the moon for 13,000 years, sending out these delayed echoes as a sort of beacon or message. That single analysis by Lenin is the sole source for the 13,000-year age attached to the Black Knight.
Wow, okay, that's a huge claim based on plotting echo delays. What's the next piece of evidence believers use?
They lean heavily on the timing, the pre-Sputnik mystery.
Kehoe's 1954 claims, the 1960 Navy sighting.
Right. They argue that even if the military later explained away these sightings as debris or whatever,
the initial reports prove something unidentified was up there before human satellites.
Exactly. For believers, the official explanations are just cover-ups. The existence of any object orbiting before Sputnik is taken as proof of a non-human, likely extraterrestrial observer watching us develop.
Okay, so Lunin's decoded message and age, the pre-Sputnik sightings. What's the final crucial piece?
The visual anchor, the linchpin for the whole modern version of the theory. Those photographs taken during the STS-88 mission in December 1998.
Right, the Shuttle Endeavour, building the ISS. Connecting the first two big pieces, Zarya and Unity.
That's the one. The images that circulated online, often cropped dramatically, show this dark, kind of angular object floating against the Earth.
And proponents argue.
They argue it just looks artificial, too complex for random debris. They describe specific shapes, a curved front like a toucan beak, a jagged rear portion. They say it looks too structured, too symmetrical. It has to be a craft, not junk.
Okay, so those three things. Lunin's 13,000-year-old message from ISAR, the pre-Sputnik sightings implying an early observer, and this compelling 1998 photo of a structured object. That's the believer's case in a nutshell.
That's pretty much the core of it.
All right, now let's put on our deconstruction hats. Time for the fact check. Where do we start pulling this apart?
Let's start with the biggest, most specific claim. Lunin's 13,000-year-old message from the star ISAR, supposedly decoded from LDEs.
How do we tackle that one?
The simplest way. We let Duncan Lunin debunk himself.
He retracted it, the whole thing.
He did, completely. Years later, he publicly admitted he'd made outright errors in his calculations. He even stated his methods were unscientific.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty damning from the source himself. Were there other issues?
Yes, a major astronomical one. His initial hypothesis rested on the assumed distance to ISAR, which was thought to be about 103 light-years away back then.
And that distance was plausible enough for his theory?
Just barely, he thought. Enough time maybe for life to evolve and send a probe. But then astronomy got better.
Uh-oh. What did new measurements show?
Independent studies, using much better techniques, recalibrated the distance. ISAR isn't 103 light-years away, it's actually 203 light-years away.
Double the distance, does that matter?
Hugely. At 203 light-years, ISAR is classified scientifically as an A0 type star.
And A0 means?
It means it's very young, very hot, burning through its fuel rapidly. It's far, far too young for complex, intelligent life, the kind that could build and send interstellar probes to have evolved in its system. The planets wouldn't even have cooled enough, let alone supported life for billions of years.
So the star system itself couldn't support the origin story?
Correct. Faced with his own admitted calculation errors and this new astronomical data showing ISAR was too young, Lunin formally withdrew the entire hypothesis back in 1976.
So the very foundation of the 13,000-year age claim just evaporates. It's based on a retracted theory rooted in bad math and incorrect astronomical data.
Completely. That pillar is gone.
Okay, let's move to the next big problem. The orbit. A 13,000-year-old object supposedly hanging out in low Earth orbit. LEO. Is that even physically possible?
No, absolutely not. And this is probably the most straightforward scientific debunking of the whole concept.
Why not? What's the issue with LEO?
LEO is generally defined as anything below about 2,000 kilometers altitude. That's where the ISS is, where the shuttle flew, where most visible satellites are.
Right.
But even though it's space, it's not a perfect vacuum up there. There are still thin wisps of atmosphere, enough to cause drag.
Atmospheric drag, like air resistance, but much weaker.
Exactly. And this drag constantly slows down anything orbiting there. It steals kinetic energy.
So what happens to the orbit?
It decays. The object loses altitude slowly at first, then faster, spiraling inwards. Unless it has its own propulsion system to constantly boost itself back up.
It's eventually going to fall back to Earth and burn up in the atmosphere.
Precisely. Small objects like debris might only last months or years. Even large satellites like defunct ones typically decay within decades.
So 13,000 years in LEO without any engine or maintenance.
Physically impossible. It violates basic orbital mechanics. Now, if it were way out in geostationary orbit, 36,000 kilometers up, sure, things can stay stable for millennia. But the Black Knight is always depicted or cited in LEO. It simply couldn't last that long.
Okay, so the age is based on retracted science, and the claimed orbit is physically impossible long-term. That leaves the photo, the 1998 STS-88 picture. This is the modern smoking gun for believers.
It is, and to understand this, we need to go directly to the official source material you provided. The NASA documentation from that specific mission.
Which document is that?
It's the Debris Ice TPS Assessment and Integrated Photographic Analysis of Shuttle Mission STS-88. A bit of a mouthful, but it's the technical memorandum written right after the mission in late 98, early 99.
And this mission, STS-88, was a huge deal, wasn't it?
Absolute massive. It was the first U.S. mission to assemble the International Space Station. Their main job was linking the Russian Zarya module, already up there, to the brand new American Unity module.
That sounds complicated.
Incredibly. It required multiple complex spacewalks, EDAs, astronauts physically outside, bolting these massive structures together in orbit. Very high stress, very high stakes.
Okay, so in the middle of all that, they take these pictures of this strange object. What does that official NASA technical report say the object actually was?
The report is clear. And this has been confirmed by crew members themselves, like astronaut Jerry Ross, who was on multiple EVAs during that mission. The object in those photos, the supposed Black Knight, was identified as a thermal blanket, specifically a trunnion pin thermal cover.
A thermal blanket, like
liquid ventilation?
Exactly.
A piece of multi-layered insulation designed to protect one of the connection points, the trunnion pins, used to grapple and maneuver the modules.
Okay, but why did it look so weird in the photo, so structured, like that toucan beak people mentioned?
That's the trick of light and perspective in space. You take a flexible, foldable thermal blanket, crumple up a bit as it detaches, put it in the vacuum of space with no air pressure to shape it, hit it with harsh, direct sunlight from one angle and deep shadow from another.
And with no sense of scale.
Yeah, precisely. With no reference for size, floating against the Earth or the blackness of space, that flimsy, bunched-up material suddenly looks solid, metallic, and strangely shaped. The shadows create the illusion of structure.
So it wasn't a rigid alien craft, it was just space quilting.
Essentially, yes. Crumpled space quilting.
How did they lose it? Was it a big, dramatic event?
Not really. The report indicates it happened during one of the EVAs. They were using the robotic arm to try and position the Zarya and Unity modules for connection. There was a moment where the arm had to release and re-grapple.
And during that maneuver?
The source notes state that as the arm moved for a new alignment, several items floated away, including the thermal blanket covering one of the pins. It just came loose and drifted off. An accident during complex, difficult construction work.
Okay, so a piece of equipment insulation floated away. What happened to it? Did it stay up there? Did they retrieve it? Cue the conspiracy music?
No secret hangar, unfortunately. The reality is much more mundane, according to the sources. NASA immediately cataloged this piece of debris. It was given the official designation NASA object, Rio 25570.
So they tracked it like any other piece of space junk.
Yes. And space historian James Oberg, who has looked into this extensively, confirms what orbital mechanics would predict. That lost thermal blanket followed a decaying orbit and burned up harmlessly in Earth's atmosphere about a week after it was lost.
Burned up within a week.
Gone, following the exact physics we discussed for objects in EO.
That single fact, cataloged, tracked, burned up in a week, really seems to destroy the idea that this photo shows a persistent, ancient object.
It completely undermines the visual anchor of the modern myth. And there's more context in that NASA report that shows just how, unremarkable this lost blanket was to the mission managers.
Oh, like what?
Look at the photographic evidence itself. The crew took maybe 5 pictures of this thing over about half an hour while it was drifting nearby.
5 photos? That doesn't sound like they were documenting first contact.
Exactly. If they thought it was something genuinely anomalous or extraordinary, you'd expect intense photographic documentation, maybe video, closer inspection attempts. The fact that they took a few snaps and moved on suggests they quickly assessed it as what it was. Lost equipment, unfortunate but not critical, just another piece of debris to track.
And the technical report itself, the main document, it wasn't even focused on this blanket, was it?
Not at all. That debris ice TPS assessment. TPS is the thermal protection system, the heat shield tiles. That report is overwhelmingly focused on actual damage the shuttle Endeavour sustained during its launch.
Damage? From what?
From debris hitting it on the way up. This was a constant concern for the shuttle program. The report meticulously documents every little ding and scrape on the heat shield.
Give me an example.
Okay, the report states the orbiter's underside, the belly, sustained 80 total confirmed hits from debris during ascent on that mission alone.
80 impact.
80. And they weren't all tiny. 21 of those impacts were classified as having a major dimension of 1 inch or larger. They found one specific site of tile damage that was 4.5 inches long, over an inch wide, and 1/8 of an inch deep.
That sounds actually worrying, not like a floating blanket.
It was worrying. This was real potential structural damage to the vehicle's heat shield they were assessing. They were hunting down the sources of this launch debris, mainly foam insulation coming off the big external tank, the ET.
Foam loss. That sounds familiar and ominous.
It should. The report specifically details damage believed to be caused by foam loss from the ET's thrust panels. This was the exact same issue, foam striking the thermal protection system during launch that tragically led to the loss of the Space Shuttle Columbia just over 4 years later.
So NASA's focus in that STS-88 report wasn't some mysterious space object, but a very real, very dangerous engineering problem with launch debris and foam.
Precisely. They were documenting known threats to vehicle safety. The report even mentions finding pieces of the shuttle's own engines stuck to it after landing.
What, like engine parts?
Yeah, it notes 2 pieces of ablator material, the stuff that lines the Space Shuttle main engine nozzles to protect them, were found stuck on the tiles of the orbiter's body flap. One piece was 6 inches long, the other 4 inches.
Okay, so when you put the Black Knight photo, this image of a crumpled blanket, into the context of a mission report detailing 80 debris impacts, significant tile damage, concerns about foam shedding, and finding chunks of engine nozzle stuck to the shuttle.
That floating thermal blanket suddenly looks exactly like what NASA said it was. One small, mundane, tracked, and temporary piece of human-generated space junk in a very complex and occasionally messy construction zone. It loses all its mysterious significance.
Right. So let's pull back again. We've looked at the pillars. Tesla's signals, likely natural or interference, misunderstood at the time. LDEs, a real anomaly, but Lunan's interpretation was retracted. Cold War sightings, misidentified U.S. debris, and the NASA photo, a lost thermal blanket tracked and burned up. Individually, none of them hold up as evidence for an ancient alien probe.
And the theory only exists by taking these completely separate, unrelated events and sources.
Early science anomalies, UFO promoters, military mix-ups, maybe a bit of British rocketry naming confusion, and then that photo.
And just mashing them all together, asserting connections where none actually exist. It's synthesis, not evidence. Linking explain things together and calling the result a mystery.
Which leads us to the really interesting part, the human element. Why? Why does this specific story built on such shaky and disconnected foundations persist so strongly? The NASA report explaining the blanket is out there, Lunan retracted his work decades ago. Why is the Black Knight still a thing?
I think it tapped into some deep psychologically. Look at what the theory does. It takes boring technical realities, a science writer making calculation errors, the military getting confused about debris, an astronaut dropping a piece of insulation.
Mundane stuff, basically. Mistakes and accidents.
Right. And it transforms them into proof of something vast and secret. Government deception, hidden cosmic history, aliens watching us.
So it makes the believer feel like they have special knowledge.
Exactly. It offers a sense of possessing secret insight. If the official story, it was a blanket, is a lie, then the person who believes in the Black Knight feels they're one of the few in the know, holding a crucial truth that they, the government mainstream science, are trying to hide. That's a powerful feeling.
And it's just a much better story, isn't it?
Infinitely more compelling. You compare the narrative, 13,000-year-old alien probe from Izar watching humanity versus the reality in that STS-88 report. Meticulous analysis of foam debris impact damage dimensions on thermal protection system tiles.
Yeah, one is epic sci-fi, the other is engineering homework.
Precisely. The factual reality is technically dense, maybe a bit dull. The myth is instantly dramatic, mysterious, and feeds that human desire for the universe to be grand, exciting, maybe even a little bit scary and conspiratorial. It satisfies a narrative craving.
Okay, so we've established pretty conclusively using the NASA documents and the history that the object in the famous photo was just a thermal blanket, NASA object 025570, tracked, decayed, gone within a week.
And the rest of the myth is a patchwork quilt of unrelated, explained, or retracted claims. It's a classic example of how separate oddities get wrongly synthesized into one big conspiracy.
Absolutely. But let's end, as we often do, with a thought to leave you, the listener, pondering. We've taken apart the Black Knight satellite as this single ancient alien object. It doesn't hold water.
Let's just entertain one single fragment of the original claim for a second. Not the whole package, just the most fantastic element. The age.
Right. Forget the photo, forget Lunan's maps. Just imagine, hypothetically, that definitive proof emerged tomorrow. There is an object in Earth orbit, confirmed by multiple sources to be genuinely 13,000 years old. It's there, it's real, and it defies orbital decay physics as we know it.
If just that one fact were true, an artificial object, 13,000 years old, orbiting Earth, now what's the very first, most urgent question you would demand NASA or whoever answer?
Would it be about how it stays up there? What kind of propulsion or material science allows that? Would it be about who built it? Where did it come from? What's its purpose?
What would your number one question be? Think about that.
Let us know what you think.
Join us next time on Conspiracy Deconstructed.